Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 4 of Baki Talki, the podcast where we talk Baki or Bak Talki, depending on the episode. For any new listeners, this show is where I bring on my friends and ask them about a show that they've never watched before, Baki. And this episode is about episode 4 of Baki. I believe it's called The Battle Begins. But before we jump into that, let me introduce my co-host for the day, Mike.
Hello, I'm Mike. I've known Steve for a few years now, I guess. I've watched some anime before, but not in a long time, and it was some interesting reintroduction.
Yeah, I'd describe Baki as a starter anime. Really whets your appetite for the rest of the genre. Um, before we jump in, I have just two icebreaker questions I always ask. The first one, so we can get a sense of your taste. Other than Baki, what TV shows are you currently watching?
I am currently watching Bosch Legacy, which just came out, which is like a continuation of the Bosch series that Amazon creates. And I wanted to pick up like a comedy, so I've been watching Veep.
Veep's really good.
Yeah, and it's great because it's short too. So it's like you can watch one and you don't have to pay like a ton of attention either. You can kind of watch one and stop, and the cast is fantastic.
Cool. Okay, and last question. Before watching this episode, what did you know about Baki?
I Googled Baki to see where to watch it, learned it was on Netflix, and then read the Netflix, like, whatever, 3-sentence synopsis of the series. So something about this guy being a great fighter, and there's something with death row inmates, but I kind of skimmed through it, so I didn't pay too much attention.
It's called synchronicity. 5 unrelated criminals on death row spontaneously left the same message and are heading for Tokyo.
I tried to piece it a bit together while watching it, but I gotta say that it may not have made a ton of sense.
Yep, and that's sort of the intention of this podcast, honestly. All right, so let's get right into it. So a lot happens in this episode. This is definitely has a few of my favorite moments in the show, but I guess just to start off, we start off where we ended the last episode with Mr. Tokugawa explaining the rules of the fight that's about to happen. Can you walk me through what happened in that scene, Mike? Or at least how you interpreted it?
It was he I guess introduced the battle and was like, so it's going to start now, and they're all kind of like, but what are the rules? It's kind of like, well, it can begin any time. I can't remember. It's the guy with the Polish name, Sikorsky, who was like, a real battle is only one that you're not prepared for.
You, Sikorsky! You suggested that a fighter who fights only on cue has no right to call himself a martial artist.
And so they're like, yeah, sounds great. So it can start whenever. And then he's like, so it started. And like, just kind of, they keep repeating that for a while.
Hell, all I want to know is, when do we start fighting?
How about right here, right now?
That's what real combat's about. It can happen at any time. It could happen right now.
Once combat begins, perhaps combat's already begun.
Indeed, the game has begun. As of right now.
Yep, it's pretty circular.
I'm assuming this guy is Baki, because I don't really think they use names too much. There's sort of like, this guy was the champion of something before.
That guy was Baki.
Yeah, and then eventually he's like, okay, I got things to do, and just kind of leaves.
Yeah, it was funny how they were all like, the fight starts now, and then everybody just walked home. Especially because a lot of these guys don't even have homes. They just flew to Japan for this.
Yeah, they left. I didn't know they flew to Japan, but then there was like a scene afterwards where like a guy went back to his prison cell, I think. Having no context, I assume he broke out.
Yes, he so that's Spec. He originally was in a submarine, and he broke out of that. It was a submarine jail, and then when he showed up in Tokyo, he purposely got arrested so that he had a place to sleep and get food. But as you can see, he can bend walls and bars with his bare hands, and like much like the Hulk, and so he leaves whenever he wants.
Nice. I mean, that's a great skill to have.
Yeah, Yeah, these guys really are like Renaissance men.
Yep. Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's the initial scene. Everybody just sort of wanders off from that. But we do have 2 confrontations this episode. I don't know which one's more crazy. But I wanted to talk about Dorian and Dopo Arachi first. So that's the I don't know if you got the names, but this was the big giant American and the guy with the eye patch.
Yeah, one of them's he runs a martial arts school or something, right?
Exactly, the Shinshinkai dojo.
Dopo Orochi, also known as the God of War, founder of the Shinshinkai School of Karate.
Yeah. I thought that was, I mean, they're both ridiculous, but I did think that was the more ridiculous of the 2 encounters. I mean, I guess, like, should I just describe kind of what I thought was the most ridiculous part?
Well, just walk us through the fight and what you were thinking as it happened.
Well, so they're walking down the street together, and I thought that they were on the same, like, team, I guess, because I had no context. And then this third guy kind of shows up.
Retsu.
And yeah, and the I guess the American guy and Yatsu knew each other or something, and they exchanged some words, and our martial artist master's like, oh, so you guys know each other, that's great, we can skip introductions or whatever. And then the guy's name is Dorian, right, the American, he just gives him a nice sidekick, which I was like, oh, I thought you guys were like together.
Fight continuity editor Steve here. It's actually Dopo who first throws a duffel bag and then kicks Dorian in the face. Just keeping the record straight here.
Sorry for starting this without you, Retsu, but I just couldn't help myself.
And, kind of a nice big beating like that. The guy kind of goes down, but then blasts him with a lighter with his mouth, which I was like, does he just permanently have alcohol in his mouth? They showed a flask.
The funniest thing is the reason that Retsu knows Dorian's the big guy. The reason that Retsu knows him is because the last time they met, he did the same thing and blew fire into his face. So he does seem to keep a flask of potentially alcohol. I honestly think it's gasoline, but it does seem like it's his go-to trick.
Oh, yeah, but master martial artist there was apparently prepared for this. Just what do you call it? The circular defense.
It's the perfect
one of these.
defense.
Yeah, just let me make some circles and the fire doesn't hurt me.
Of course, the perfect defense. Mawashimuke.
That's right. It's a circular defense combining multiple blocking techniques, known as the King of Blocks. Arrows, guns, flamethrowers, whatever you got, bring it.
Which, if that works, that's great. Good for you, Why not?
I can't prove it wrong,
It's, not being a martial artist myself, I cannot say for certain that it does not work. But yeah, he pulls off the defense move, and then I don't know if something else happens in between this, but he, I think it's his arm or his hand is sliced off, which was comical, I guess, in a way, like just kind of a little bit of excess bleeding, and then he's got just like this very awkward looking stump.
It was a very clean cut, It was.
Well,
it
yeah,
looked like something you'd see at the butcher's.
Yeah, it's like there's no little bits hanging out or anything. It was like it's in like the drawing, it's like a perfect circle. Like maybe that's part of the defense. It's his arm has just become one with it. And that they did a nice little flashback of showing how he got this tiny micro or nanometer
nanofiber.
Yeah, nanofiber cord that he slipped over it, and then he was talking about how science works for crime.
that was the best. I mean, like, the determination to first of all, not break when your hand gets cut off, but then to not break while your assailant goes on a monologue about the history of criminals and research and development funded by organized crime.
You see, the history of mankind has been one of unremitting forward progress. And that's why we have so many wonderful gadgets today. Science is continuously making things stronger. And for whom was it developed, faster, this remarkable, almost magical wire? Bigger, for magicians, perhaps, to help them deceive and baffle their audience. It's really quite extraordinary. An aramid carbon fiber titanium composite. Used in body armor and space protectors.
Yeah, I love that speech. That's honestly why I watch Baki, is for moments like that.
Oh, I mean, it makes you really think, could this be real? Yeah, it gives you some pause, and then it proceeds with, well, I'm happy you cut my hand off, because now I had been doing this training of, I can't remember what it was called, but he was punching his hand through a wood block, and his hand was all mangled or whatever. And he's like, I just wished at that moment I could punch as hard as I wanted to without breaking my hand, and now I can. Just with the stuff.
Funny thing is, I did some spear hand training years ago. Hurt like hell. Slamming my fingers into those bamboo posts made me start to wish I didn't have any damn fingers. 'Cause then I could go around punching as hard as I wanted.
Well, that's the whole, I guess that's part of the karate defense technique, because, if somebody ends up cutting off your hand, they've only made you stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Also, throughout this whole scene, Doppo is flexing his fist into his shoulder so that no blood comes out of his gaping hand hole. I guess.
I did forget about that. He said it's good you've applied pressure to stop the bleeding.
I see that you've already managed to stem the bleeding by applying pressure. Well done.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's one of my favorite fights. And oh man, Doppo got introduced I think 2 minutes before this episode started, and he's already lost his hand 5 minutes into this episode.
Oh, well, that's fast character development, I guess.
Yeah. You can't really argue against losing a hand as character development. I guess it's not character growth, it's sort of like character subtraction.
I mean, I don't know the characters yet, but maybe it's like his origin story, he was this guy and he lost his hand, and what's he going to be next?
Just wait until you see the next time he shows up. I don't know. Baki has a problem where there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of violence, but if you it's like Pokemon. Like if you go sleep in a bed, the next day you're gonna wake up feeling ready to go. Yeah,
it's a pleasant world.
Yeah, there's a lot of blood, but on the downside, it's got its upsides. So the other big fight, and this one is that was one of the more, I'd say, badass type of just cool fights in the show. The next one's definitely one of the weirdest ones. This is the Sikorsky subplot with the name of the man who kidnaps him is Kanji Igari, a pro wrestler who has a feud with Sikorsky because he got his face cut open. Can you walk us through what happened in that encounter?
Yeah, so I guess Sikorsky is walking through a park at night, I guess, when the wrestler, basically Kanji, appears in front of him and is like, I'm gonna get you for what you did to my face. And Sikorsky kind of looks at him and is like, well, okay. And then his two associates come out from the shadows behind him.
Huh, this is really the guy who messed up your face, boss? A death row inmate, huh?
And sort of give him from the other stuff I've seen, I consider this a light beating. They kind of just hit him a bit and he falls to the ground, and they stick a marble in his mouth.
It was really unclear. I assumed it was like a gumball, but it did look like a marble.
Yeah, I thought it was a gumball at first, then it kind of lasted too long, and I was like, no one's blown any bubbles yet. So, but you know, maybe it's like a jawbreaker or something. I don't know. But
could be a jawbreaker.
But so they you know, get him kind of whatever, not I guess tie him up and bring him to a what looks to be like a boxing arena, I guess.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Or training area.
Might be like a wrestling training place because Kanji's like a pro wrestler.
Yeah. But they like tie him up into the ropes, and the two associates are like, "Man, this guy beat you up. He was, you know, pretty easy. Do you want us to like mess him up, and like, what do you want us to basically like do to dispose of the body?"
So what do you want to do now anyway, boss? After all, this guy's supposed to be on death row, right? We could kill him and nobody would even care.
And he, you know, Kanji basically pulls out a gun and then shoots him in the chest. And, you know, it's like, wow, that was kind of a bit anticlimactic to finish him off that way. But turns out this guy just wears a bulletproof vest all the time, which I guess goes back to his original point of like, it's not really a fight unless it's unexpected. And so he's always prepared is what I'm taking out of this. Like, you know, I guess he wakes up in the morning, showers, and puts on the bulletproof vest.
Yeah, I guess it was very bold. Like, he didn't have a bulletproof vest over his face. he's lucky that Kanji just shot him 6 times in the same spot. But yeah, he was prepared for that.
And then Kanji says like, "What are you waiting for?" And so then he like rips out of his restraints and off the ropes.
You SOB, how long are you gonna keep up this act? You wear a bulletproof vest everywhere you go.
And just immediately goes for the guy who gave him the marble gumball jawbreaker or whatever, and like, I guess he has like knives in his knuckles or something, because he just completely like slices this guy up.
We were discussing this last episode. I don't think there's any reason other than that his knuckles must be unnaturally sharp, because he does this a lot.
It made me like, I don't know, there's this like, I think it's a frog that will like, it has venom inside itself and it will like break its bones like to protrude through its skin so it can like slice people up, and that's kind of what it made me think of. But you know, he didn't have any bones showing, so maybe he's just got those sharp knuckles. But yeah, he messes up the first guy, and then the other guy, I mean, I don't know, you know, why he waited till his buddy was kind of messed up and then went for him, and he just completely destroys this guy too. I think like slices up his leg, and yeah, they're basically like incapacitated in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you'd hope like either go at it as a team and go with the numbers, or after seeing your friend get eviscerated in 1 second, maybe just run away or something. Like, you're probably not going to beat this guy.
Well, exactly. It's like, you know, but that's you know, not just anime, it's like movies, right? People do this all the time. Like, oh, my friend went down. I definitely got this one now. But, you know,
everybody
not.
Wait your turn.
Yeah. So that's great. He just basically like slices them up with his hands. And then Kanji falls to his knees and is like begging and like bowing to him, being like, "I'm begging for forgiveness."
There, you see, I'm bowing to you. I'm surrendering and putting myself completely at your mercy.
Good. Now, beg.
What do you think I'm doing? I'm admitting defeat and begging for mercy.
And Sikorsky's like, "Okay, I guess that's cool." And what is he like, I can't remember what makes him like lie down on the floor.
Editor's note, I actually misunderstood what Mike was saying here in the record, and forgot what happened in the episode. Sikorsky lies down on the floor just in front of Kanji, who is bowing for forgiveness. Rewatching it, it seems the intention is that Sikorsky is giving him a chance to fight back and avenge his fallen comrades. It's a bit tough to piece together because then Sikorsky does like a lying down leap into a kick to the face. So it doesn't seem like he was that earnest in giving him a chance to fight back.
Yeah. And he says like, you know, "Forgive me" or whatever. And then Sikorsky, what does he do? He like hits him with a massive weight.
Yeah, he
and then starts
up,
throwing. Yeah, starts throwing dumbbells. Like,
this was one of the most brutal beatdowns I've ever seen. He hits him with like one of those like 200-pound weights, and then starts throwing, I don't know, like 50-pound weights at him from across the room.
yeah,
It's brutal.
yeah. I was thinking, like, man, if this was real, like all of his bones would be broken. But you know, it's animated, so he doesn't, I mean, appear to have any broken bones, but he does look quite hurt.
Yeah, he does a good job of guarding himself with his little like two arms in front of his face.
He sure protects his already scarred up face. That he had a nice set of bandages all over it. I'm assuming from a previous encounter with Sikorsky.
Yeah, that was another case of the old knife knuckles, right to the face. Yeah, just for context, in the previous episode, Sikorsky just sort of stumbled upon them while they were having dinner, and Sikorsky kicked the ass of Kanji's friend, and then they went outside, ordered an ambulance, and then he kicked Kanji's ass, and then basically left. So they do have a bit of a feud for context, but there's also almost no context.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, I kind of assumed based on, you know, the episode on its own having very little sense that maybe just these things just happen and there isn't a whole ton of context for any particular event.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That after his weight beating, Sikorsky then begins to urinate on his head. Which is a choice, I guess. You know, you've already beat this guy, and then you gotta, you know, give him the old urination. And then I guess he wasn't dead, so he like tries to like leap up or something, and I mean that was the last straw, I suppose, for Sikorsky, who then eviscerated him with his knife knuckles.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I'd say it was an impressive feat that like he was able to leap up after all that, but like overall not a good day for Kanji.
Oh no, yeah, almost like a wasted leap too. Like you got up, but then you didn't do anything. You didn't get a surprise hit in or anything. You just kind of
died,
leapt up, and then then got hit.
He leapt up and his spirit just kept going. up and away. Yeah. Oh man, that's the second time there's been a urine plot line this season, episode 4. But yeah, we'll see when it comes up again. Yeah, what did you think of that fight? Who do you think's more scary after watching the two of them go at it, Dorian or Sikorsky?
I mean, Sikorsky. I feel like Dorian's got these like tricks or whatever, but like if he doesn't have his lighter or his flask, then like what does he have? You know, and I think you know, that other guy made the same point of like, if we need science or martial arts, then what's the point or whatever. And it's like, you know, you've got your tricks, but this guy's literally got like knife hands, and not like the Edward Scissorhand kinds. Like they work like hands too.
Man, I'm sure at some point in Baki they're going to introduce an actual Edward Scissorhands character. But until then, yeah, no, I'd agree. This is definitely Sikorsky's best storyline. Anyway, so those were the big action pieces for the episode. But you have the honor of dealing with our first ever Kozue subplot in an episode, which is also a roundabout way of saying the first girl to have a line in this show by episode at the start of episode 4, or by the end of episode 4. Can you describe Kozue a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, she's a woman. They don't really say how old she is, but she's Baki's landlord's daughter, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Also, from what I can tell, Baki lives in like a shed. But I don't...
Yeah, I mean, he did say that she lived next door, so landlord / neighbor, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she what did she say? She was like, well, why haven't you asked me out? It must be, I guess, a little weird with me, being your, I think she said, like, because I lived next door, not because it was his landlord's daughter. But he's like, oh yeah, it's, it was kind of tough, but I, finally did it.
Never thought you'd ask me out on a date.
Well, it's a little awkward, with you living right next door and all.
So what you're saying is you've thought about asking me out before?
Oh, yeah. Every single day.
She's like, well, when did you want to ask me out? And he was like, well, ever since I first met you, which is nice, I think. I don't have the context. I don't know if that's creepy or nice, but it sounds nice.
Yeah, I think they're a sweet couple.
Yeah. And they go for a little walk and they go to hold hands, but Baki grabs her hand, and I guess to show his great strength, she's like, ow, you're hurting me.
What?
It kind of hurts.
Oh, sorry.
Not in like, my hand is crippled and broken kind of way, just like it hurts. And so he lets go and he's like, oh, sorry. And then she takes his hand, very sweet. And so that, so she can apply the right amount of pressure.
It's truly a beautiful, heartwarming moment between the two of them. There's a lot of those in that montage of them dating each other across town.
I guess they went for food. I think I'm trying to remember.
I think they went shopping.
A diner with them.
I think they went for food. I think they got harassed by some youths.
Which was hilarious. To like, we're wallet inspectors. Please show us your wallet if you'd like to. And then they're like, or if you don't like to, we still want to see it.
Editor's note, this first goon sounds a lot like the goon from previously in the episode, but he's a different person.
Sorry to bother you. We're doing a little survey of what today's teens carry around in their wallets.
Whoa, you're pretty ripped, dude. You work out?
Anyway, like I said, we're doing this survey, so if you don't mind, could you take out your wallet and let us see what you got in there? Actually, even if you do mind, take it out.
Great line.
Yeah. I'm so glad you listened to the dub. There's so many awkward, especially when you get like background characters or like one-off characters. The dialogue's just so goofy.
The beginning with like the circular talking, I was like, I wonder if this is really what it translates to.
Oh man, but yeah, they have a nice date, and I think it ends with them walking through a park, just together at night, very scenic. And then what's the last moment?
The last moment. I don't think I remember, to be honest. I think I watched the encounter they had and them holding hands, and I can't recall what goes on next.
I'll fill you in. The very last shot of the episode shows Speck, the 7 foot tall guy who is in jail, has followed them to the park, foreshadowing for something that will not really happen next episode. Oh man,
nice. I did watch the ending credits and wondered if it was the same guy.
Oh, the guy at the end of the ending credits?
Yeah.
No, that's Baki's dad. Hey, editor Steve back again. I realize we've never talked about the ending credits on the podcast before. It's very basic. It's Baki jogging, and at the end he sees Kozue. And then weirdly it pans back and his dad is looking at the sun. Let me play a little bit for you.
It's just okay.
I don't know if anybody else has actually watched the ending credits because they're really weird.
Well, yeah. So when I watch a TV series, I will usually watch the opening and the ending credits once, like the first episode I watch, just so that I know what it is. And sometimes they have like characters in there. They're like, oh, I wonder when this character is going to show up. But yeah, so I did watch both the intro and ending credits for this.
It's got good music, I'd say. It's one of the strengths of this show.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said I think most anime has pretty good intro and like outro music, but
that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that basically covers everything from the episode. A few outro questions for you. Did you have any questions about the show? Was anything confusing or anything that you didn't understand?
I mean, there's a lot that I didn't understand, but coming in to just watch one episode in the middle of a series, I didn't know if it was expected to make sense or not. So,
that's fair.
It's like, Knife for Hands is like, is there some like backstory that like explains, like if this was like X-Men or something, right? They'd be like, oh, he has a mutation and he's like Wolverine. But if they just start fighting and he's just got knife hands, that's a thing, I guess.
It is sort of like X-Men, but the answer is always that they're really good at martial arts.
Yeah. But no, like, I didn't end up watching the episode and being like, wow, I have so many questions. I more thought, well, maybe I should watch a few episodes and see if they're all like this. And if they are, then, that's just the style. But yeah, nothing that was like, man, I really need answers for this. I do wonder why they had escaped inmates and 5 people who what was the way they put it? I want to experience losing.
Oh yes, they all want to experience the taste of defeat. Yes, that's just synchronicity, Mike. It's a pretty simple concept. 5 people across the globe had the same idea, and they all broke out of their death row prisons and swam or flew to Tokyo. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. They spent the whole first episode explaining that, so educate yourself.
Right. So this is one of those questions where if I'd watched the whole thing, I would have some context.
You would have an answer. I don't know if it clears anything up. Oh man. Okay.
Not so much, but hey, that's part of it.
Exactly. All right. And this is the big one. Now that you've watched an episode of Baki, do you think that it is a good show?
Well, I mean, I think any show is a good show if you're in the right mood for what they're offering. So, yeah, sure, it's not awful. It might not make sense, but if you just want to watch some, animated, beat 'em up brawls, then this might be the show for you.
Yeah, I think that's the fair take, and I think that might be the most positive review so far.
I mean, I probably wouldn't choose to watch any more episodes, but I am not going to blame someone else who would.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Mike. This is the end of episode 4. Episode 5, I cannot wait for it, so make sure to listen to that one. I don't think I've ever plugged myself at the end of the episode, but that's how excited I am for what happens in the next episode.
Well, I'll definitely keep a lookout for when the podcast comes out, and I'll use that to determine whether I actually want to watch it.
It'll come out soon. I only have one more before I can start doing the big release. Anyway,
nice.
This has been Baki Talki, and we're all talked out of Baki, and I still don't have a good sign off. So see you later.